Hey everyone, I finished watching the next Street Sharks episode. Crap, what was the name of this one? Oh yeah, Too Shark or Not Too Shark. Yeah, it's another dumb shark thing in the title, but this one actually makes a little bit of sense. Let's see, because the whole plot focuses around the sharks making a decision on whether or not to remain sharks or remain human, because in this episode, they get to turn human again for a brief amount of time. I really liked this episode as a kid. I really liked it when I was younger. I remember getting the DVD, and this was one I really liked. Oh, here's the DVD. I could have just looked at my paper in here for the name of the episode, whatever. Um, Watching it now, I don't like it as much as I used to. I remembered it being way better than it actually was. Like, I seem to remember, I think in my head, I could pick out, like, the really interesting concepts this episode brought up and kind of rewrite the episode as I kind of forgot the weaker parts of the episode, which is most of it. It starts off with Streaks and Jabs are going to help. Yeah, Streaks and Jab. Why did I say Jabs? Whatever. Moving on. They go to help Benz at this auto show that Benz is working at. Benz shows them this new highly advanced car, the French Hyperion. Its big thing is that it can run on almost anything, or anything. Why isn't this a real car? I don't know, suspension of disbelief. Yeah, destroyed, whatever. Uh, this girl who's also working there, Brigitte, whatever. This girl who speaks with a kind of French accent that feels kind of forced sometimes. I don't know, whatever. She goes over and she sees the sharks and she mistakes them for people in costumes and asks them to leave, and they do. Great scene. Anyway, on their way out, they bump into Reptile and Killamari, and then they have a little polite discussion about what each of them are doing there. And Reptile mentions that Paradigm is working on a way to turn them human again. And then they're like, okay, bye, yep, bye, and alright. Kind of weird, there's no big fight scene or anything there. Usually, an encounter with the Seviots and the Sharks would lead to some kind of big fight, but there isn't. Jab goes that way, and then Streaks goes that way to follow Reptile and Killamari. He follows them right to Paradigm's new lab, and Paradigm is talking with Killamari and Reptile that he's just developed this new formula that can turn them human. Then he's explaining some of the rules that you have to take one dose and you'll turn human, but it won't be permanent until you take the second dose 8 hours later. Streaks is like, hey, that sounds like a cool idea. He jumps in, takes the formulas, runs away. Reptile and Killamari are chasing after him, and they lose him. And then Streaks, let's see, where does he go? He gets back to the auto show for some reason. He goes in this back room that's there for some reason, and he just takes the formula. Alright, your enemy who's tried to, like, murder you, mutate you, uh, try to murder your father, mutated your father, mutated you guys, you know this, yeah, just drink the thing that he was holding. Streaks is an idiot in this episode. So anyway, he takes the thing. Oh, and that Brigitte girl was in there, and she hides in a locker, and she sees Streaks transform from shark to human. And I guess she sees that, and she's like, oh, hey, he's hot. I like him. I'm gonna stalk him now. Streaks, as human, somehow finds some clothes lying around that look just like his clothes from the premiere. Huh. Isn't that a coincidence? So anyway, he's roller skating through the city. Bridget's following him, and she gets water splashed at her. She gets like smoke on her. She gets like grease on her face. I don't really know why any of this was relevant. Okay. So anyway, Killamari and Reptile, meanwhile, they get back to Paradigm, and they tell him that they lost Streaks, and Paradigm is like, good, just as I wanted. And then they're like, what are you talking about? He has the formula to turn us human. And then Kilimari is all bummed out about it, and then Paradigm's like, "Oh, it wouldn't have worked on you, Kilimari. You were never human. You were a squid, remember?" Which is a nice little nod to continuity. I do like that the writers still at least remember that Kilimari was a squid and Reptile is the one who's human, although they kind of forget that Reptile also wanted to be human again. It's also implied in this episode that Reptile doesn't remember who he was as a human, which is a really interesting concept that they do nothing with. So then anyway, oh yeah, and Paradigm is telling them his plan that he wants the sharks to become human again so they can't fight the Seviots anymore. Oh, and also Paradigm wants them to steal the French Hyperion car for some reason. So then meanwhile, Streaks makes it back to Shark HQ, or Shark Central, whatever. And his brothers are all like, "Whoa, dude, what happened to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I took this stuff from Paradigm, and it turned me human." And Ripster's like, "You drank this without having it analyzed?" And I'm like, okay, Ripster's the one with the biggest brains so far in this episode. But then they just take it anyway. Alright. And at all the times before when I watched this, I never really thought about this, but I'm thinking about it now. Why didn't Paradigm put that loyalty serum in the formula? It's established to be a thing. He's done it before. It's why Reptile most likely doesn't remember who he was as a human, and why Kilimari and Reptile and all the Seviots are loyal to him, because of the loyalty serum. Why didn't he put it in there? Did they forget that it existed for this episode? Well, that can't be it, because it comes up later. Whatever. So anyway, oh yeah, the Bridget girl, Jab sees her outside, Streaks goes out to talk to her, and let's see. The shark's inside, they take the formula, they're all human, and then they go and they see Benz, all as humans, and Benz just kind of accepts it and doesn't seem too fazed by it at the moment. I don't know, I guess maybe he was stunned and it takes a while for it to sink in, because eventually he gets bummed out, and he's all like, "Man, Jab will never get to have this car here that I made for him. This car that looks just like the French Hyperion." And then he opens this cabinet on the wall and takes out these, like, rocket skates, and he says, "And Jab won't be, or was it, and Streaks won't be needing these. Guess that's why they invented recycling." And he tosses them to the side. Remember that. That's important. No, it's not. Bridget comes over, and she's all like, "Hey, Benz, have you seen the sharks? Because Streaks, I wanted to talk to him." And he's like, "No, I haven't seen him." And the animation is weird here. Benz's face is animated in kind of like a neutral expression, even though his voice is kind of angry. I don't know where the disconnect was there, but whatever, back to the thing. Let's see, the brothers go to check out the French Hyperion, but it's being stolen. It's being towed away. They chase after who's towing it, and it's a car driven by Kilimari and Reptile. They try to stop it, but they can't do anything because they're not sharks anymore. They just get tossed around. So then they go over to Humongo Burger because not their responsibility, I guess. And they're wondering why Paradigm wants the car, instead of continuing to try and figure out how to get the car back. Whatever, anyway, then there's a thing where they order way too many burgers and they can't eat them all. For some reason, I remembered that really well from this episode. And also it's weird because it's kind of like portrayed as a bad thing that they ordered too much and now they can't eat it. Like, I don't know, wouldn't that be a good thing? That's like a positive of being human, is you don't eat as much. You'll save money. Unless Humongo Burger just gives away burgers for free or something. Or it's like an all-you-can-eat type of thing. Who knows, whatever. Back at the auto show, we see Benz is getting all depressed, and oh yeah, here's where he chucks the skates. And oh yeah, and then back to the Street Sharks. Ripster figures out why Paradigm wants the car. Let's see. He plans on fueling it with gene-slamming chemicals because the car at the beginning, Benz said that it could run on anything. So Paradigms decided it's going to run on gene-slamming chemicals, which will come out the exhaust and go into the air and mutate people in the air. So then they go to get the car back, and then they're overpowered by Killamari and Reptile. Oh yeah, Streaks doesn't go back in. Streaks is tired of fighting now for some reason. Whatever. And there's a weird animation continuity. I don't know, some kind of weird mistake. We see Reptile doing his thing. He shoots electric eels out of his hands. And then, like, each time he shoots the eels, there's a little electric flash around his hands. Then Killamari shoots a dart out of his mouth, I think. And they have the little electric effect there. Killamari's not electric, though. And also, he doesn't shoot things out of his mouth. I don't seem to remember him shooting stuff out his mouth. They come out his hands and those little, like, hole things on his, like, body. Whatever. Anyway, 3 of the brothers are captured, and Paradigm sends Killamari and Reptile out to find Streaks. They attack him at the car show. He hides Bridget in a nearby car. And then Benz comes in on this little jet shooting missiles. Alright. And then, so anyway, they're driven off, and then Streaks is talking to Benz, then they realize, oh crap, she's in the car, and there's a fire because we need a dramatic thing to happen. Oh, and then, let's see. Oh yeah, it's been 8 hours, and Streaks is about to take the formula, but he can't take the formula, because if he takes the formula, then he stays human, he can't save Bridget. If he doesn't take the formula, he'll turn back into a shark, then he can save Bridget. So he doesn't take the thing, he turns back into a shark, he goes to save Bridget. So Bridget served her purpose. We'll never see her again in the series, I'm pretty sure. Streaks goes back to Benz, and Benz opens up the cabinet, and the rocket skates are back in there. Whatever. He gives them to Streaks, and Streaks skates off to save his brothers. And then Paradigm now has the loyalty serum ready to inject into Streaks' brothers. Which just makes me wonder all the more, why didn't he put it in the formula to begin with when Streaks stole it? Then he wouldn't have to go through all this other stuff. Whatever. Streaks breaks in just in time to stop the serum from being injected into his brothers. But Paradigm has the French Hyperion car now. He drives it off. The sharks chase after him. Oh yeah, they're all turned back into sharks at that point because it's been 8 hours. And let's see. Oh yeah, Benz comes up and he gives Jab his new vehicle, which is like this red drag racer car that Jab lays down on his stomach, reaches his arms behind him to grip these little handles. It's a very awkward looking car. And I know that it looks that way because it was based off of a dumb toy. Which, like, of all the toys they could have adapted, like, I think maybe they've adapted all the toys into the show, I don't know. But this was a really dumb one, too, and a really weak one. Oh, and also, it doesn't look like the car that Benz was bummed out about earlier when he says, "Guess I'll never give Jab this new car." And he's next to something that looks like the French Hyperion, not the drag racer that he actually gives him here. Whatever, anyway, they chase after Paradigm, they get the car back, they go back for burgers to celebrate, and then the episode just suddenly ends. Like mid-sentence, mid-ending music, and then just boom, end credits. It's really weird how abrupt the ending is. So anyway, it's an okay, dumb Street Sharks episode with the major plot hole of why didn't Paradigm just put the loyalty serum in the thing at the beginning. Why does Streaks take it immediately? There was no reason to. He could have just taken it back to Shark HQ and have the others analyze it. Whatever. Oh yeah, and Bridget's pointless. She's only there so that she can be in danger at the end to prompt Streaks not to take the formula and turn back into a shark. The animation of this episode is okay. I mentioned the thing with Benz, his expression didn't really match the tone of his voice, and that's kind of a thing in a lot of the later Street Shark episodes is like expressions, especially for people, don't always seem to fit what they're saying. Um, One of the things that I remembered from like when I watched this as a kid was I seem to remember way more like internal drama with the sharks wondering about what should we do, like should we stay human or turn back into sharks, and I seem to remember there being a way bigger like philosophical conflict in their minds about what to do and what the right thing to do was, and none of that was really in the episode. It's barely touched upon considering it's the main point of the episode. One of the things I was thinking while watching this again, this should have been a two-parter. The first episode could have been all about them taking the serum, and then Paradigm steals the car. Then the next episode is them trying to get it back, failing, and eventually realizing that they have to give up being human to turn back into sharks in order to defeat Paradigm. But I'm guessing maybe they shied away from that because it's Street Sharks. We need to have the sharks in every episode. This is a neat little thing. I'm guessing it was done because they had the like character models of the Bolton brothers from the premiere. That's why they wear the same clothes here. Whatever. Oh, and also it's kind of ironic that if the whole reason why this wasn't spread out into a two-parter to build dramatic tension or whatever, or to explore this concept deeper, was because the sharks need to be the focus and they need to be there. It's kind of ironic considering what'll come later in the final couple episodes, but yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's a dumb Street Sharks cartoon, so yeah. Don't expect anything too deep from Street Sharks. So that's all for this one. See ya.